So let us recap where we're holding right now. We're in the middle of Perek Mem Beis, and we're talking here about Yiras Hashem and how to go about getting Yiras Hashem. And the Alter Rebbe says that the key to Yiras Hashem is in Das, lies in Das. In order to be able to have Yiras Hashem, you have to have Das of Hashem, knowledge of Hashem. Da es Elokei Avicha Avdehu B'Leiv of Shalom. That when we have Das, then we can serve Hashem with our heart and have Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem. And Das, the idea of Das is the capacity to be able to connect to that something which we understand, a concept that we understand. So when we can connect, in other words, we all know that there's an Eibishter, as in the story that we said last week about the maid who said that there's an Eibishter. We can all say that there's an Eibishter. We might even know it in a cerebral way, an abstract way. But if we can connect to that with Das, then we are able to have Yiras Hashem. So from where do we get Das? So that we went through three points. Number one, our neshama receives the capacity of Das from Moshe Rabbeinu. That's number one. Number two, in every single generation there are nitzutzim of Moshe Rabbeinu, sparks of Moshe Rabbeinu that come down in every single generation, and they teach Das to the people. In other words, they by them teaching Torah to the nation, and just also by their mere presence, and their mere presence reveals Elokus to us and allows us also to have Das and to be able to connect. That's number two. And then number three, the Alter Rebbe says, here comes our own avodah. We had to be able to have Das. It's not enough to have the fact that our neshama has a unika, receives some sort of lifeline, some sort of line of Das from Moshe Rabbeinu. It's not even enough that we have a Rebbe, but we have to do our own avodah. What is this own avodah that we have to do? So the Alter Rebbe divides it into two parts. Part number one, the first part he says is Yigias Basar, and the next part he says is Yigias HaNefesh. Yigias Basar, the first thing we have to do is we have to make sure that the Basar, the flesh, the body, the guf, and the Nefesh Bahamis doesn't get in the way of our ability to connect to Hashem. And the way we do that is by deprioritizing the guf and the Nefesh Bahamis. Because ultimately, as discussed on many different occasions, we each one of us has two different nefashos. We have two animating forces within us. There's the Nefesh Elokis and the Nefesh Bahamis. And as we've also discussed on various occasions, the difference between the Nefesh Elokis and Nefesh Bahamis is not in details. This one wants this and this one wants that. As we discussed many times, that's more Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Tov wants one thing, Yetzer Hara wants another thing. Yetzer Tov actually wants many different things, Yetzer Hara wants many different things. The Nefesh Elokis and Nefesh Bahamis are fundamentally different in their agendas and their goals, which is the Nefesh Bahamis is self-centered, and the Nefesh Elokis is centered around Hashem. It's Hashem-centered, Bittul-centered. And a Nefesh Bahamis life is fundamentally different than a Nefesh Elokis life, in that the center of gravity is completely different. And the reality of everything is different. The Nefesh Elokis experiences every single thing, every moment of every day, every experience. The Nefesh Elokis experiences it in a different way than the Nefesh Bahamis does. Nefesh Bahamis experiences everything from an egocentric perspective, what's in it for me, and to Nefesh Bahamis, I am real, the world is real, and it's all about me. And the Nefesh Elokis, I'm not so real, the world is not so real, it's not about me, it's all about Hashem. And you really can't live in these two orbits at the same time. You have to really make your choice. What is going to be your reality? When you wake up in the morning and you take on the day, what is going to be my reality today? Is my reality today that Ani Nevresi L'Shamash Es Koini, that I was created to serve my Creator, to serve Hashem? Or do you wake up and I was created today to serve myself? It's a fundamental difference. In life we can have many different desires. They don't necessarily contradict each other. So I can like chocolate ice cream, and I can also like vanilla ice cream. And I don't have to, to like vanilla ice cream, I don't have to give up my chocolate ice cream. I can like both of them, and that's fine. And then after that, I can like a comfortable bed going to sleep. And then after that, I can even enjoy sitting down with a Gemara and sitting and learning a Blat Gemara. And I don't have to give up one for another. These are all different enjoyments that I have, because they're not at odds, fundamentally at odds with each other. I enjoy one thing, I enjoy another thing. But the Nefesh Elokis, Nefesh Habahamis, it's not I'm enjoying this, I'm enjoying that. It's two totally different ways of viewing the world. And if I live my life from a Nefesh Habahamis perspective, how can I expect to have das and to be able to really connect to the real reality, the reality of the Nefesh Elokis, the reality of Hashem, the reality of Torah, the reality of Bittul? So in order to be able to have das, it's not enough to take time to focus on it. I actually first have to disengage from my current modality, my Nefesh Habahamis modality, in order to be able to enter the Nefesh Elokis modality, and to leave behind the Nefesh Habahamis modality. That means, in simple words, deprioritizing Olam Haza and the physical and all those pleasures, because all those things get in the way of being able to have das, of being able to truly connect to Hashem. So that was part number one in our Avodah. Yes?
It's not that you're saying, not someone should say, I'm serving I'm going to utilize my Nefesh Elokis to serve myself. That's not what.
That's an oxymoron. That's a contradiction in terms.
Right.
To use the Nefesh Elokis to serve myself is a contradiction in terms.
How they coexist?
1 second, what?
It says you're about to, what is it? You give this boss or guf. It's referring to the Nefesh Habahamis.
The Guf and Nefesh Habahamis are synonymous. Yeah.
How they coexist? They look like each one's antagonistic to the other.
They don't coexist.
They don't coexist.
No.
So you have to make a choice.
There we go. That's exactly what we're saying. And as we mentioned,
but you need to. But you have to use your Nefesh Habahamis to sustain yourself in order to. You need it to just kedei chayuv. I mean,
that's correct.
Overindulge.
In a chanami, but the Nefesh Habahamis could be in the service of the Nefesh Elokis. And then in that way they can coexist. If and when the Nefesh Habahamis is just serving the needs of the Nefesh Elokis, then they can coexist. But the Nefesh Habahamis, with its agenda and with its view and its perspective, cannot coexist with the Nefesh Elokis. As we mentioned last week, that's what the Navi, that's what Shem told Rivka about Yaakov and Esav. Yaakov and Esav represent the Nefesh Elokis and the Nefesh Habahamis. And the Navi told them, Vayomer Hashem La, that they're Shnei Goyim Bevitnech, and Uloim Eloim Yamatz, which means that when one strengthens himself, the other is weak. That Yaakov and Esav, they're never equally powerful because they can't coexist.
And on Shabbos, is it a little bit, the Nefesh Habahamis is a little bit different on Shabbos? You get a geschmack on it.
On Shabbos, the Nefesh Elokis needs more the Geshmak of the Nefesh Habahamis, but it still has to be in the service of the Nefesh Elokis. In Perik Zayin, the Rebbe talks about using physical things, l'shem shamayim. So he says, "Oy b'shvil." For example, if you're eating and drinking, kedei l'kayim mitzvahs einik Shabbos v'yamtiv. But that's an important point. Kedei l'kayim. Its taka has to be emes, that you want to have einik Shabbos v'yamtiv. In which case, it's taka the Nefesh Elokis' agenda, because the Nefesh Elokis wants that. Okay.
You have to neshamot in Shabbos, so you have to enjoy it. You have to fit too.
Right. And then we move on to the next point, which Alter Rebbe says, the next way of getting das, and that is, Alter Rebbe says, is by Yigias HaNefesh, and that is by being mispoin and contemplating the Gedulas Hashem, contemplating the greatness of Hashem, and thereby connecting to it through his boinenus. The Rabbi says that this, how long do you have to be mizboinen? How long do you have to meditate and contemplate into the greatness of Hashem? It's not the same by every person. Some people it takes longer and some people it takes shorter, depending on how sensitive and how holy the neshama of the person is. Someone who has a very sensitive and holy neshama, it'll take a shorter amount of time. And someone who is a neshama is not so refined and is more coarse, and especially if the person has done Averis, it'll take longer to arrive at Das. However, the Alter Rebbe says ultimately everyone will get to Das if you try hard enough. And that will get too soon. But first I want to talk a little about this meditation that's required in order to get to Das. And in terms of hisbaininus, in terms of meditation, there are really two different types of meditation. There's one type of hisbaininus, one type of contemplation, and that is a Bina contemplation. And there's another type of contemplation which is a Das contemplation. And I want to point out four of the primary differences, all of them taken from the Tanya, which we're learning in here in Perek Mebez, four of the primary differences between a Bina contemplation and a Das contemplation. Bina contemplation means that you sit and you're thinking about something, and the purpose of your thinking is in order to understand something. You want to comprehend something, you want to grasp something. There's a certain idea, whether it's a Gemara, whether it's a Shagis Arya, or lahavdil, some sort of concept in science, whatever it may be. Bina means that your mind is working in order to be able to understand something. Das is different. Das is that you're contemplating not because you want to understand it, but because you want to absorb it and because you want to connect it. So how does this play out practically? So you have over here, you have a paper.
But how could you absorb something that you don't understand? Absorbing what?
And that's why Das has to follow Bina.
So you need Bina.
You need, of course, yes.
You need Bina. It's not two separate.
Right, there's a Seder, Chachma, Bina, Das. Chachma is the flash of inspiration. Bina is the thinking about it to understand all the details. And then you move on to Das. So the first difference between a Bina contemplation and a Das contemplation is the length of the hisbaininus. How long do you have to contemplate? So if it's a Bina contemplation, you're thinking about something because you're trying to figure it out. So how long are you going to think about it? How long are you going to contemplate? There's a famous joke. It says, why is it that when you lose something and you go looking for it, you always find it in the last place that you look? And the answer is, because once you found it, why would you continue looking? So it's always in the last place that you're going to look. And a similar way, how long are you going to think about something to figure it out until you understand it? Once you understand it, there's no need to keep on thinking about it. So let's take a very, very simple mashal. Let's say you're trying to understand the concept of 2 + 2 = 4. It's obviously a very rudimentary example. So you're going to think about it, the concept of 2, you add 2, and that will equal the quantity of both of them together. And once it clicks in your mind, once you figure it out, there's no need to continue thinking about it. You have it, you figured it out. And that's a very simple mashal, but whatever it is, you're learning Gemara, you're learning a Perek Tanya, how long are you going to think about it until you feel you get it? And we all know, we've all experienced that sometimes that we're having difficulty understanding something, we apply ourselves to it, we think about it, and then, we get it, we think about it a little longer just to make sure that we have all the details and everything fits into place, and then we move on. Why are we moving on? Because what's the point of thinking about it weiter if I already figured it out? So that's the length of his Bina. Bina, the length depends on the person's intellectual capacity and the complexity of the topic, and it could be brief. So how long you think about it? It could be longer, it could be shorter, depending on how smart you are, depending on how difficult the topic is. But the bottom line is, as soon as you understand it, you move on, and if you get it very quickly, you could think very quickly. In other words, it doesn't necessarily have to take a long time. Sometimes it could take a short time. The Das meditation, so the hisbaininus requires a good deal of time. A lot of concentration and focus, immersion is required in order for an abstract idea to click and resonate. So in Das, the point is you're trying to connect with it, and therefore it takes time. It takes time. It takes time to process. It takes time to think about it. It takes time to connect it. And therefore, it's not about, oh, I understand it, I can move on. Even after you understand it, you keep on thinking about it, because the point is to connect it and to immerse yourself in it and to make it into your reality.
Each person is different than
Each person is different in Das also, that is correct. But that's a different thing. We said earlier, for example, when it comes to Hashem, the difference is going to be how sensitive your neshama is. Some people, it clicks quicker. But it's not about when do I get it, it's about when did I connect with it. So to connect with something takes time for everyone. The question is how long. But it's not about, oh, I understand it, I move on. That's number one.
So again, I'm trying to say, so das is connecting to an idea or to a concept.
Yes.
Connecting, chibur.
Yes. Like Adam Yadas Chava.
So Bina comes first.
Bina comes first. Bina is understanding it. First you have to understand the idea, and then you can connect it and
You might have spoken about this, I'm sorry. So why don't we ask for das first? We mentioned das first. Das, Bina. Shouldn't we mention Bina first?
that's a good question.
But Enosh is below Adam, right?
Sorry?
How does Adam is above or below Enosh? And the Edom and Enosh are
Adam is higher than Enish. You have in the pasuk, however, "V'mali yisei ruach elikim rei b'chachma b'tvuna u'v'das." Over there, Bina comes before Das.
Right, yeah, I know. And you, Chabad, Chachma Bina das.
I've never seen it addressed. I can guess that ultimately the main nekuda is Das.
Why? Because you connect it.
Because so maybe you're getting, the first thing is, Ya'atachil Ladam Das, that's the main thing. It's like Minakavad Alakal. It's like, the reason why we do Havdalah and Chinna Das, because im Ein Das, Havdalah Minayin, right?
Which my next question, why is it Kashyap to das? The main Bina Havdalah Minayin. Not really connected to das. You need Bina to be Mabdul. I don't know. Maybe you just chopped on das because that's the first part of the bracha, but it's really Bina that's required to create Havdalah.
In real life, you need Das to make Havdalah. But I want to move on, we could talk about this later.
In fact, I think Rabbi Shaffer says that the word Bina, I don't know if he's right, but it's connected to Bain, being able to distinguish.
But the Lashon is im Ein Das Havdalah Minayin, not im Ein
I
Bina.
know, but he works with Bina.
Okay, this is going off a little on the side. This is an interesting question. I'm going to get to the bracha atachein, but this is going off a little on the side. And mistamem edet vegena. The next difference between Bina meditation, Bina is baininus, and a Das is baininus, is in terms of the regularity. How often do I have to think about it? So, Bina, how often do I have to think about something? Once, until I get it. Once I understand that 2 + 2 = 4, do I have to revisit it every single day and think about it again? Once I got it, I got it. If I understand the halacha and shulchan aruch, complicated, once I got it. Now I might want to think about it once in a while to make sure that it stays in my memory.
Hazara.
To make it stay in my memory. But that's not a function of Bina really. In other words, that's not about getting it, that's supposed to be refreshing my memory. Das, on the other hand, as the Alter Rebbe says over here, it requires constant maintenance. Let's do it. Bina, in terms of regularity, there's no need to revisit an idea once one has grappled with it and feels comfortable that he or she fully understands it. On the other hand, Das, the meditation requires regular practice to ensure that old default habits and patterns of thinking do not return. So in terms of connecting to Hashem, it requires constant maintenance. The fact that to use an example. So we learned a while ago, we learned Perek Lamed Beis in Tanya. I don't know, maybe it's 2 years ago already, a year and a half ago. All about Avos Yisrael. And how to come about having Avos Yisrael. Some of you may remember it. What we learned, the idea of Nafshei Ikar v'Gufei Tafel, how the importance of making your nefesh the Ikar and the Guf the Tafel. But even if it's stored in the back of my mind, and even if I know it, and even if someone asks me a question, I can say, this is what the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya. To have Das, to connect to that idea, I need to revisit it every once in a while and reconnect it, especially when it goes against nature, against what we're used to, the normal patterns of thought and behavior. If I want to stay connected, I have to revisit it. And it has to be constant, because to connect to something, I can't just think about it for an hour and then move on. Even if I understood it, it has to be constantly connecting to it. Now last week, For those of you here, you remember I recalled that there was a sikha from the Frierdiker Rebbe, where it says, the Rebbe writes over here, that on page 118, he says, to think deeply and to contemplate the greatness of Hashem, a large and continuous hour. So someone asked me last week, I don't remember who, but someone asked me, what?
What's a Shah Gadol?
What is a Shah Gadol? Who asked me? I don't remember. It was you?
He asked him. Yeah.
So I told you the Sikha from the Frierdiker Rebbe. So I dug it up. It's a Sikha from the Frierdiker Rebbe from Yud Beis Tammuz, Tafresh Tzadik Beis. Yud Beis Tammuz, that's 1932. Again, it's not yet printed, but, and I'm going to read you the words. I can't say I fully grasp what the words are, but they're very, very powerful words. I'll read it in Yiddish and I'll translate. Das was steht in Tanya. Yispeinen Shah Gedola. Was heißt das Shah Gedola? So the Rebbe says, that which it says in Tanya, to think a big hour. What does it mean a big hour? Hat den Ashah 180 minutes? Does an hour have 180 minutes? What does it mean a big hour? Every hour is 60 minutes. Now the Pirush is, but the meaning is like this. Shah Gedola jeden Tag. It's a large hour every day. 7 Shah in Vach, 30 Shah in Chedesh, 365 Shah in Yar, 1 hour every day, 7 hours every week, 30 hours every month, 365 hours a year. B'meshach 10-15 Jahr wird man a Mensch. And then, after 10-15 years, you become a Mensch. Was das ist gewesen bei alte Chassidim, der Inyan von Shkida. By the older Chassidim, this was the idea of Shkida. Shkida means constancy. Yeah, asmada. He's saying that if you put in an hour a day, every day, in 10-15 years you become a mensch. Which tells you a little about what it means. Obviously, this doesn't mean that for the first 10-15 years you're a behemoth, and then suddenly, boom, a flash, the light bulb goes on and you become a mensch. We're talking about it's a process, and it's an avodah. And obviously, after 1 week, you're going to be a week ahead of where you were last week. You're developing a little das. He's saying that after 10-15 years, that's when you see the full results of the avodah. Very powerful words over here. But das, to really, really connect, it takes time. It takes time and it takes immersion. And everyday pasha, taking some time, taking an hour. If it's not possible an hour, the Rebbe doesn't say this, but I'll say this. If you can't do an hour, so do a half an hour. But before davening, taking some time to think about the greatness of Hashem in a das way. It's not about trying to figure anything out. Not about trying to understand. It's about connecting to it. And eventually, after time, you become connected. You partially become connected. And once you become connected, as the Alter Rebbe continues, Yiras Shamayim becomes something which is a natural thing.
Tzaddikim Rishonim, before they were davening for hours and hours, make kavanah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they do.
The next difference in Bina and Das is the style of the meditation. So,
what would be an example of somebody thinking like that? Nature, how great the world is, the creations are.
The greatness of Hashem, the greatness of His creation, the greatness of His kindness, all the different,
So what's the das would be the facts about the creation, the facts of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's attributes. And
they're.
But the Bina would be is what would the Bina part would be?
Bina is learning a Sefer Musar, learning a Sefer Chassidus, and figuring out what it's saying and understanding it well. And the das follows that afterwards. The das follows that afterwards. So till now we spoke about the length. It can't be in 1 minute to connect. The process takes time. It has to be regular. That was point number 2.
Yes.
Point number 3 is the style of this Bainos. When you're trying to figure something out, your mind is working like an investigative journalist. You're probing it, you're analyzing it, you're trying to understand it better, trying to figure out the different details and aspects and applications. And sometimes when you're thinking about something, and you're not trying to figure anything out. By way of example, if you had in your life a momentous occasion and a momentous experience, let's use, for example, your wedding. But everyone else could have different, very strong, powerful occasions, whatever it may be. Everyone has a few of those in their lives. And every once in a while, your mind goes back, and you'll sit for 5 minutes, and you'll sit for 10 minutes, and you'll just revisit that time. The purpose of revisiting that time, you're not trying to understand anything better. You're not trying to figure anything out. There's nothing that you're trying to grasp better. And when you finish after you finish your 5 minutes or 10 minutes, it's not like, oh, now I understand something better. I have a better, no, nothing. What were you doing? You were immersing. You were immersing yourself in that time. You were reconnecting to that time. That's a das type of hisbodedus. A das type of hisbodedus is that after you learned about the greatness of Hashem. So when you're learning in the greatness of Hashem in a Perek Tanya, you're trying to understand it and trying to understand the details and how it works and how it functions and everything of that sort and how Hashem's chesed works. And that's all analytical. That's Bina. That's a Bina contemplation. A das contemplation is not analytical. So we have over here the meditation style. A Bina, the meditation is academic and investigative, seeking to fathom an idea. And Das, the meditation focuses on absorption and application. Using another mashal, which we said once before, I think when we learned Perek Gimel, is imagine if you're looking at a painting. So there are two ways to look at a painting. One way you're looking at a painting, especially if you're someone who appreciates art, you're looking at the different shades and the colors and the way that the frame offsets the canvas and the type of paints that were used and the different lines and styles. That's one way. So you're looking at it and your mind is investigating it. You're analyzing it. And you're like, oh, now I get that. Oh, now I get that. That's one way of looking at a painting. That's a Bina way of looking at a painting. What's a Das way of looking at a painting? You're not trying to figure anything out. You're appreciating. And you can sit for 5 minutes and just take it all in. Take it all in. The beauty of it. That's a Das. Das is that which you learned, just sit with it. Sit with it, think about it, and allow yourself to connect to the ideas that you learned. That's difference number 2. Difference number 3 between a Bina hisbodedus and a Das hisbodedus.
You said before about sometimes you sit down and you look back for your wedding. Today they have CD, they have video. Sometimes after a few years you sit down and see it and a different world for you. You see what was years ago.
So sometimes you're looking at it, you're like, oh, I recognize that person, and who's that person, and when did that? That's all Bina.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're not trying to figure anything out. You're just enjoying. You're just looking at it and taking it in.
Scenery.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's some total.
By way of example, so today for the Lubavitcher Chassidim, we don't get to see the Rebbe. We watch videos. So I watch videos. I try to watch very often, and that's a way of das. It's a way of connecting. And so sometimes you're watching a video of the Rebbe, by Farbrengen, the Rebbe speaking, and then you're you focused on hearing what the Rebbe is saying and trying to understand what the Rebbe is saying. And sometimes you're just watching a video of Farbrengen, the Rebbe singing, or the Rebbe giving out dollars, and you're just connecting. You're connecting. You're.
That's a good example.
Yeah. So that's a das way. That's trying to connect.
Could you explain, according to Hasidus, how does it tie into Ata Haresel or Das, to Hashem Elokim? Why the emphasis on Das and not? You didn't teach us how to understand. You taught us Das. I just wonder how will this be related to what we're learning now.
The Das is the end product.
You
You can't have Das without being this.
I know, but I'm saying, so
That's-
That's the end product.
the contrary.
That's the ultimate.
By the way, you're Tosfos. By the way,
I think that's the best.
everyone here asks questions. They're Rashi. You're Tosfos.
All right.
Everyone here asks Pshat, but how does that? There's a Gemara in Moed Cotton that says otherwise.
I'm just trying to see.
The contrary. That's the whole power of the pasuk. Now we understand that it's not Pshat that the Eibishter taught us something. Ata Haresa, you showed it to us, Loladas. It became connect. We connected. It was our reality, the Eidem Uvade. It wasn't just something that we understood in the abstract. Ultimately, what it comes down is das. Everything is connected to das. Everything is connected to das.
So that's the ultimate.
It's the ultimate, sure.
That's the right word.
Das is in the lashon of Kabbalah. Das is called the maftecha de kol shis, the key to all six midas. When you have das, that awakens the avas Hashem, that awakens the yiras Hashem, and all the other midas. And when you have midas, that automatically leads to machshava de bermaisa. The Amalek. what was it? In Chassidus, it talks about what did Amalek want to do? Kiyad al Keis Ka. That Amalek cut the name into half. Yud Kei represents Seichel. Yud is Chachma and Hey is Bina. And the Vav Kei represents the Midas of Nafos. And Amalek wanted to make that, in your mind, you should understand everything. But it shouldn't have an impact on the Midas. Shouldn't have an impact on my feelings and my actual perceptions. And the whole of Das is the remedy to that. How do you get to... the whole idea of, let's put it in different words, the whole idea of Golus is a lack of Das.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is that Pare, when Moshe comes to him and says to him, let my people go, what is Pare's response? Lo yadati es Hashem. I have no Das. I have no Das. I can have Chochmah, I can have Bina, I have no Das. And that's why in Chassidus also it's explained that the word Pare, the name Pare, is the same letters as the word Ha'irif. Ha'irif means the neck. And it's explained in Chassidus there's something called, there's the Meitzar Hagarin. Meitzar Hagarin means there's the head. And here's everything we understand is here. And the purpose is that it should flow to the heart. And that which I understand should lead to Midas, to Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem. But there's what's called the Meitzar Hagarin, which is the narrow strait of the throat, and things get stuck there. When there is no Das, so what's in the head stays stuck in the head, and then you can have a person who understands the greatness of Hashem, but in terms of his midas, he doesn't have Avos Hashem, doesn't have Yiras Hashem, and is totally into Olam Haza.
Stuck.
And that's Golus. By the way, and Pari has his, Chassidus explained that Pari has his 3 helpers that make sure that everything stays stuck over there in the neck. They're the Sar Ha'oifim and the Sar Hamashkim and the Sar Tabachim, and Chassidus explains the role of each one of them, and each one in a different way make sure that everything stays stuck in the head, which is also again connected to Amalek. And that's Golus. What is Golus? Golus is that when you learn and you understand Hashem's greatness, and it doesn't impact your behavior. Who pulls the Yidden out of Mitzrayim, out of Golus? Who's the one who comes and counters Pare? Is Moshe Rabbeinu. And what's Moshe Rabbeinu? Das. That's what we're learning in this Perek. So Moshe, with the power of Das, pulls us out of Golus, out of our national Golus, not of our personal Golus. Let me ask you a simple question. If your feelings were a perfect reflection of everything you know, of everything you learned in Torah and about Hashem, what kind of person would you be? If everything you learned reflected itself, well,
you would be Moshe Rabbeinu.
You'd be a Geula Yid. You wouldn't be in Galus. Talking about in the personal Galus. You wouldn't be in the Galus. You'd have Avos Hashem, you'd have Yiras Hashem, you'd have Simcha, you'd have Bitachim, you'd have all the Midas Tovos. The problem is, the Pare cuts everything off. And the main thing is to have Das, because Das is the key to the Midas. Das is what connects you to the concept, and thereby awakens all the Midas, including the Yiras Hashem, which we're talking about here in this Perek. The fourth,
What is this? Maybe this off the top of the word. Does Haskell come into this at all?
Sorry?
Haskell. To be masculine and that.
Right. Seichel, I think, is a general term which includes Chachma, Bina, and Das. The next difference between Bina and Das, so far we spoke about the length, the regularity, and the style, and the next difference between Bina and Das is the objectivity. Normally when you're thinking about something, the difference between Seichel and Midas is that Seichel is objective and Midas is subjective. If you want to understand something well, then the best way to understand it is by making sure that there is no ulterior motive whatsoever. You remove yourself from the picture entirely. If you have any interest in it, then you're not going to understand it well. Ki hashoichad ya'aver eini chachamim v'yisalef divrei tzadikim. That when a judge gets shoichad, what's the problem? We're not worried that when a judge gets shoichad, talking about a judge who's a righteous judge. We're talking about a judge, a Talmid Chacham, a tzaddik. And even, by the way, shoichad, as we know, bribery is prohibited, even if one of the people gives the judge money and says, I'm giving you this money on the condition that you give a righteous verdict, and I don't care who wins. I'm giving you this money, do the right thing. If that happens, the judge is disqualified. Why? Because shoichad is two words together, shehu chad, that he is one. The moment that the person gets money, he becomes one with the person who gave him the money, and then he can't think straight. He's not going to think straight. He's not going to purposely pervert the judgment. He's not purposely going to give a wrong verdict, but because he has an interest over here, because he's personally connected, so he doesn't see things objectively. So for seichel, for Bina, to arrive at a correct conclusion, Bina, you need to be objective. You have to take yourself out of the picture entirely. The more you're neutral, the more you'll come to correct. And that's why today, two people, one's a conservative, one's a liberal, one's a this, one's a that, and why is it that one of them will never convince the other? Because they're not neutral. Their emotions are involved. They're subjective about it. It's not seichel. Pure seichel is when I don't care what conclusion I arrive at. I've totally removed myself. I have no interest in it whatsoever, which is very rare to find that kind of person. But at the same time, that is the ideal of Bina. So when you're contemplating something to try to understand something, ideally what you need to do is remove yourself from it. It's not about me at all. You're thinking in the abstract, you're thinking theoretically. Das, on the other hand, if you want to connect it, you have to put yourself in it. You have to be a part of your meditation. You remember, in the beginning of the Perek Mem Aleph, so we had over there, the Alter Rebbe gives us a meditation. He says, that what are you supposed to think about in order to get to Yiras Hashem? So he says, you go back over there, look at this. If you want to follow along, it's on page Nun Vav. He says, to contemplate with one's minds, the greatness of Hashem. Think about the greatness of Hashem and Hashem's sovereignty, His kingship, that He is the king over the higher worlds, the lower worlds, and Hashem fills the worlds and He encompasses the worlds. Hashem fills all the worlds. Wow, thinking about the greatness of Hashem. And then further you think about Hashem, even though that His glory fills the higher worlds and lower worlds, but He's, so to say, He leaves behind, neglects the higher worlds, and He wants to be the king over Klal Yisrael. What a contemplation to bring to Yiras Hashem. And what's the next words the Alter Rebbe says? Ve'alav bifrat. And it's not just that Hashem wants to be the king over Klal Yisrael. He wants to be king over me, in particular, individually. Aha. What did we just do? We just took a meditation and you made it personal. You put yourself into it. For Bina, when you're thinking about the greatness of Hashem, it has nothing to do with you. You think about the greatness of Hashem and the grandness of the world and creation and Hashem's chesed and Memala Kalam and Seva Kalam and all these things. And that's great for Bina, for comprehension. But for Das, for connection and absorption, I need to connect to it. I need to connect it. And how do I connect it? It's not enough to think about Hashem's chesed. I have to think about Hashem's chesed to me. It's not enough to think about the fact that Hashem creates the world and He creates me. And it has to be a very personal. For me to connect it, I have to relate to it in a personal way. So that's the fourth difference between a Bina contemplation. A Bina is Bina and Das. One is objectivity. When it comes to Bina, the interests of the person who is meditating need not factor in to the meditation. And as mentioned, in fact, if the person's interests are factored in, that can actually skew the results and make a person arrive at a conclusion that's not correct. On the other hand, when it comes to Das, the I that wishes to connect needs to be part of the process. One must contemplate the benefits of living a lifestyle in accordance with one's principles and in accordance with connection with Hashem. So those are the four differences. So this is what Das is all about. And again, it takes constancy every day. And as we saw earlier, what the Frierdiker Rebbe says, and after 10, 15 years, wird man a Mensch. So hopefully in 10, 15 years I'll come back over here. I mean, still be coming till then. We'll see the results of this Perek.
You know, Bina, there is Bet Yud Nun Hey. Bet is 2, Yud is 10, Nun is 50, and Hey is 5. So it's 50, 60, 65,
67.
6 and 7 is Yag Midot.
6 and 7 is, right.
13. It's Yag Midot.
I don't get it. 67?
6 and 7 is 13.
13 is Yag Midot.
You'd give him Midas Sharachman.
Gimel.
I'm not sure what the connection is, but I'm sure there is. Okay. You have to talk to the Mekubal afterwards. He'll explain it.
I'm asking the Makulu, explain to me, what's the connection?
If you make yourself kavanot with Bina, you will have easier to do Yud Gimel Midot.
Hashem does his good, it's not us.
To you. You're the Shaliach.
Okay, to be continued. Now, the next thing the Alter Rebbe says is like this.
What are you waiting for?
Let's start from page, we did this already last week, but let's do this a little more inside. Page 118, 3 lines from the bottom. The Alter Rebbe says some people takes a longer time to get to Das, some people takes a shorter time. But even the person who has a very low neshama and has done Averis, Mekal Makim still, Bekoishi, with difficulty of Chazaka, when a person is determined with determination and persistence, that a person really exerts his mind with incredible yigia, gadol, and depth, to think into the greatness of Hashem, Shah Gedola, a significant amount of time. Bevada is certainly tagia ilav akapana mayira tata anal. There's no question that every person will arrive at das, and therefore to at least the lowest level of Yiras Shamayim, which was discussed in Perek Mem Aleph. U'kamesha Amr Razal, it's the Chazal tell us from Sechtes Tainis, Yagaiti u'matzasi tamim. That if a person says, I tried and I succeeded, you believe the person. If the person says, I tried and I didn't believe,
I'll tell him.
I'll tell him. I tried, but I didn't succeed, I'll tell him. U'kidiksiv, and as it says in the Pasuk, Im tivakeshna kakesev chamatmoinim tichapesna. If you look for it like you look for gold, and you search for it like you search for a treasure, Oz Tav and Yiras Hashem, then you'll be able to understand Yiras Hashem. Pirush, Kederach shemachapes adam matmoin v'oitzer hatamim sachtiyas haaretz, like a person who searches for a treasure that's hidden under the ground, shechefer acharav b'yigia atzuma, that he digs after it with incredible exertion. Kach tzarech lachber b'yigia atzuma. The same thing a person needs to dig with an incredible yigia, incredible work and toil, legalis eitzer shel Yiras Shamayim, to reveal the eitzer of Yiras Shamayim, atzafun u'mustar bebina salev, which is hidden in the heart, in the bina of the heart, shel kol adam Yisrael, of every single yid. You know, today, it's very popular, with all the self-help and the... If you try hard enough, you can do it. Try hard enough, you can do it. Anything you want, anything you put your mind to, you can do. And while that sounds nice, and while that sounds inspirational, it's not true. Everyone has certain talents and certain strengths and certain aptitudes, and not everyone can do everything. Not everyone can do everything. Not everyone can become, whatever they want. Some people's minds work in certain ways, some people's bodies work in certain ways, and not everything that everyone can do, everyone can do. The Gemara actually says, when the Gemara says, Yagaiti u'matzasi, timing, the Gemara, this is about different Torah. It's not about everything in the world. In other words,
It's about learning.
About learning. Yeah. But if someone comes and says, Yagaiti, I tried to become the top physicist in the world, V'lei matzasi, and I wasn't able to. Timing, you can believe that. You can believe that. In other words, when it comes to Divrei Torah, we say Yagaiti v'lei matzasi al tamin. When it comes to Divrei Torah, but not everything. Today we believe in egalitarianism and equality, so everyone can do everything. No, not everyone can do everything. You have your job in the world, and you have your coexist. There's what you can do, which no one else can do. By the way, you're unique. But to say you can do everything, that's not true. Sorry.
Rabbi also, Rabbi, after 5 years, is
They don't see a Simon Bracha after 5 years. Here the Alter Rebbe, however, is coming along and making the statement and saying that every Yid can reach Yiras Shamayim. And if a Yid doesn't arrive at Yiras Shamayim after following the regimen, the program the Alter Rebbe says the Alter Rebbe, Yagaiti v'lei metzasi al tamin. In other words, he says it in the other way, he says Yagaiti metzasi tamin, but meklal hey not to shemei alav, we can also infer the other way around, that if a person comes and says, I didn't get Yiras Shamayim, you should know, you didn't work hard enough. You didn't dig. As Alter Rebbe says, you have to dig for it like you dig for a treasure. But you have to dig for it like you dig for a treasure that you know is there. And that's an important key. It is there. If we're saying that Yiras Shamayim is something that I have to achieve, I have to accomplish, so you can say maybe you're not made for it. Maybe you don't have the ability, the aptitude, the talent for Yiras Shamayim. Says the Alter Rebbe, no. It's bevadai there. It's there's the H Shel Yiras Shamayim. That he used the word bevadai. What is the Okay, he doesn't use the word bevadai. Okay. But the Nekuda is, the Alter Rebbe is saying that every single Yid has this over there. There's a part from the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov says there's a pasuk where the Eibusher says about the Yidden Kitiu Atam Li Eretz Chayfetz. That the Eibusher refers to the Yidden as a Eretz Chayfetz, a land, a desirable land. Baal Shem Tov says that just like we have no idea what's hidden under the land, the incredible excuse me, the incredible resources that Hashem has embedded within the land, whether it's precious metals and the oil and different minerals, whatever it may be. The same thing as every single Yid also is the Eretz Chayfetz. Every Yid has such incredible precious things embedded within the Yid, and just a matter of digging. And if you know it's there, you'll dig, and you'll dig, and you'll dig till you find it, because it is there, it's there. So that's a very important nekuda. We're not trying to achieve das we're not trying to create das. We're trying to reach the das that's within. We're trying to reach the das and the Yiras Shamayim, which we have within us. And because every Yid has it, the question isn't if, the question is only how and when, how long will it take to get there. Let's do a little further inside. On page Samach, Shehi, which is 6 lines from the top. Shehi bechina umadrega shalamayla mazman. This oitzer shel Yiras Shamayim, this treasure of Yiras Shamayim, transcends time. Via yira ativis hamasuteres anal. This is the natural Yiras Hashem which every Yid has. It transcends time. It's above time, because it's that means that it's in the chiluk of the neshama, which is really transcends this whole world and the whole time, the whole concept of time. Right.
It's above time. Only applicable to this world. And the neshama comes from a different world.
So that's the problem. The problem is that because it's l'mayla min hazman, so the one thing is, so therefore it's always there. But it's possible that it shouldn't have an impact on that person's life because it's so lofty and so high. So rak shechdei shetavar d'emaisa. In order that this Yiras Shamayim should come down into this world, in a world where there is time, and to actually that it should cause a person that he should fear sin, liyasur mira, and to stay away from evil b'ma'is libur machshava. Tzarich legaleso, we have to reveal it b'matspune bina salev, from the hidden, where it is hidden, in the bina of the heart, shalamayla mazman, which is higher than zman lavia lebchinas machshava mamish memoyach, to bring it into the machshava in the head, lahamikba, and this is by thinking deeply into it, machshavte, with one's thought, mashal zman ma, for a significant period of time, ad sheteitze pu'ulasa ma'koyach alapoil mamish, until it actually has an effect, and it goes from the potential to the practical. The hainu liyisur merav aseitoiv, that it should cause a person to stay away from ra, and to do that which is good, but machshava dibur ma'isa b'bnei Hashem, because the person thinks about the Hashem hatzoifu umabit umazin, Hashem who was watching and looking and listening, umakshiv, umaven understands, al kol maseyu, everything the person does, ubechin kliyesa v'libay, and Hashem is looks and sees your insides and knows what you're thinking, what you're feeling. As it says in Pirkei Avos, think about three things. Think about these two. Hashem's eye is watching, his ear is listening, and everything, and you won't do any Avedas. So our job is to take this Oitzer Shel Yireh Shamayim, this very lofty level of the Neshama, and bring it down practically into this world, so that it should have a practical impact, and we should realize that Pasha the Eibishter is watching and listening and understanding. Now, this is all very relevant to our Avodah in Aseret Yimei Tshuva, the Avodah of Tshuva, the Avodah of Yom Kippur that's coming up, and it's really transformational in the idea of Tshuva. Let's take a few minutes to talk a little about Tshuva. The Rebbe once asked the question, why is it that people sleep? A third of our lifetimes are spent unproductively. We were all created to serve Hashem. We're created to serve Hashem for every moment of our lives. So why would Hashem create a world and make that human nature should be that we have to sleep, and not stam, but a very, very significant portion of our lives? A person lives 70, 80 years, that means they sleep for 20 years, 25 years. Think about that. 25 years of sleeping.
A lot of people, when they're up, they still sleep.
But that's free choice. That's Bechira. That you can't fault Hashem for. That you have to fault the person. Why would the Eibishter create sleep?
You go to sleep, you wake up, hey, something new.
Yeah. So we're going to get there. But you should know that the Rebbe's questions, I find sometimes are more instructive even than the Rebbe's answers. Because every question is based on a premise. If you have no premises, you can't have a question. Every question is, because I know or understand X, so therefore I have a problem with this. If there is no premise, there can't be a question. So therefore the Rebbe asks unique questions because the Rebbe's premises are unique. And the Rebbe's premise over here is that Hashem created everything, and everything is perfect. The world, the creation is perfect, and therefore there's no such thing as a necessary evil. So why would Hashem create us in such a way that we have to have sleep? And the Rebbe gives a very deep answer, and I'm not going to give the entire answer, but part of the answer is what you were saying, Chadashim la bekarim, and that is that we all know the feeling of it's around 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we've had a bad day, we've had an unproductive day, and we're in a bad mood, and it's very difficult. It's possible, but very difficult to make that transition in the middle of the day, and suddenly everything is fine. So we go to sleep. You go to sleep for 8 hours or 7 hours, whatever it may be, and you wake up, and it's a new day. What happened yesterday was yesterday, and today you have a new day. Today, I could put everything behind me because today is a new day. So it's a big chesed of Hashem that He didn't create the world in one continuum. That it's all one run-on day, one long day. In which case you never get a new start. But every single day we get a new start. We say Maida'ani, and we say, today Hashem, you restored my neshama to me, and today everything is before they go to sleep, as morgen soll sein schöner wie heint. Tomorrow should be nicer than today. And that split, that helps us. And so why does it have to be 8 hours? So if you ever took a nap for an hour or 2 hours, you know that's not enough to give you a new day. In other words, if you're having a bad day and it's 3 o'clock and you go to sleep for 2 hours, it doesn't do it. You need the next day. So this is true in a small level when it comes to every day. And it's even more true, and the same concept applies in an even greater way when it comes to Rosh Hashanah. But also, why do you have to have every year, everything begins anew? Every year we start anew. Again, it's a big chesed from Hashem that now we're in Tafshin Ayin Tes, and whatever happened last year was last year, and now we start a completely new year, and we have a new slate. Every single year, Hashem, we clean up, and we have a new Avodah. But the problem is that although it might be a new year, what?
It's not a new life.
But it's the same old me. It's a new year, but the old me. So yeah, it's Tafshin Ayin test. It's not anymore Tafshin Ayin test. It's a new year, and that's beautiful. But at the end of the day, I'm the same person. I am the same person who I was last week, right? And as we all know, change isn't easy. And as we all know also that the more white hairs you get in your hair and in your beard, change becomes even more difficult because we become even more set in our ways. So how do we, that's the big challenge when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, we're trying to do tshuva, we're trying to change. Changing is very difficult. So one of the themes by the Rebbe, not something he spoke about once and not twice and not 10 times, not 20 times, but again and again and again, is that tshuva doesn't mean to change. Because we're not looking to change. Because change implies that we're bad, and we're not bad. Every single Yid is a beautiful, holy, wonderful neshama. Teshuvah means to return to who we really are, And that's really what we're learning about here in Tanya. About reaching Yiras Shamayim. It's not that we have to change in order to be able to reach Yiras Shamayim. We're trying to uncover the deepest part of who we are, the truest part of who we are. We have to know that as a Yid, Va'amich kulum tzadikim. Everyone, we're all tzadikim. Every single one of us, that's essentially who we are. The question isn't how I'm going to change. You want to know what the real question is? The real question is, how did I ever do an Avera? The Zohar, the Pasuk Nefesh Kisechta, the Zohar says, Nefesh Kisechta, a Yid does an Avera, Tivaha. That doesn't make sense. Something doesn't compute, the Zohar says. How does a Yid do an Avera? How does a Yid with an Neshama, a Yid who's a chelik alekami mal mamish, a Yid who is willing to be meiser nefesh al kedushas Hashem, he'd give up his life for Yiddishkeit, how does he do something so silly as an Avera? That doesn't make sense. So what's Pshat? How does a Yid do an Avera? So the Gemara says, Ein adamei v'Avera, exactly, Elohim kei nichnas beiruach shtus. That means that when a Yid does an Avera, he's not himself. He's insane. And that's really, by the way, what we're doing. We're going Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, B'yom Adin, we go to court and we plead insanity. We tell the Eibishter, I'm sorry, I was insane. And you start counting, I was temporarily insane. How many times this year? That doesn't change the fact. All of it is insanity. That's not who we really are. So Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, when we're doing tshuva, we're not looking to change. We're looking to go deeper into ourselves and to find the real, true me. The true me who wants to connect to Hashem, who's a tzaddik, who the Rambam says that every single Yid, kol echad vechad mi Yisrael, reitzel liyis mi Yisrael, wants to be a Yid, and reitzel lasis kol ha-mitzvahs, wants to do every mitzvah, vereitzel israchik min averes, and every Yid, even the Yid who's standing, the Rambam says, in standing and screaming, I don't want to, you should know he's lying. This is the halacha, where it's not Tanya. He's lying. He wants to do mitzvahs. He doesn't want to do an Avera. And his Yetzer Hara got a little hold of him. He's being insane at the moment. So all we're doing on the Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is we're trying to reach that Eitzer Shel Yiras Shamayim that we have inside of us. And when we have that perspective, it all changes. It's not that I'm a bad person trying to change to a good person. That's very difficult. I'm a good person trying to shed some layers of insanity that has come over me over this past year and reconnect to who I really am and to what I really want and to my connection to Hashem, which exists within me and is always there and is always at the essence of who I am. Every single Yid, even the emptiest of a Yid, is filled with mitzvahs like a pomegranate is filled with seeds. And as the Rebbe explains, a pomegranate is filled with seeds. What is a pomegranate? It is its seeds. When you buy a pomegranate, it's not, so what do I have here? Look, I bought some shell. Oh, take a look, there's also some seeds. No, the whole pomegranate is the seeds. That's why you're buying it, that's the ikar of it. Says the Gemara, that afilu rekanan shebecha, even the most emptiest of Yidden, melei mitzvahs kirimen, what are they really? They're the mitzvahs, they're the seeds, they're the story about someone who once came to the Rebbe. He wasn't a Lubavitcher, he was another chassid, and of another chassidus. And when he came in, the Rebbe asked him, he says that your Rebbe, he recently had a yahrzeit, so there was a yahrzeit. Just tell me a piece of art that the Rebbe said. So he told the Rebbe that his Rebbe made a siyum on Masechtas Chagiga, and when he got to these words, that afilu rikanan shebecha malein mitzvahs karima, and even the emptiest of Yidden are filled with mitzvahs like a pomegranate. So the Rebbe said, this other Rebbe said, I don't understand that if they're so rikanan, if they're so empty, how do we say in them that they're filled with mitzvahs like a riman? And the Rebbe said, I also don't understand the Gemara, but my question is the opposite way around. If they're malein mitzvahs karima, if they're filled with mitzvahs like a pomegranate, how do we call them rikanan? How do we call them empty? There's a person that once came to the Rebbe. There's a video of this, and he told the Rebbe that I have a brother who has no shaykhis to Yiddishkeit, and he asked for a bracha for his brother. And the Rebbe looked at him, and the Rebbe says, he has no shaykhis to Yiddishkeit? He is a Yid. What do you mean he has no shaykhis to Yiddishkeit? That's who he is. That's what he is. Your job as his brother, the Rebbe says, is to try to reveal that. To say that a Yid has no shaykhis to Yiddishkeit, what does that mean? Yiddishkeit is not something that we can have a shaykhis to or not. It's what we are. It's because at the inside of us. And when we have this perspective about ourselves, the whole tshuva is another tshuva. So whole tshuva is another tshuva. We come and it doesn't in any way lessen the regret and the remorse that we feel and the pain that we feel over the fact that we did something wrong. But we understand that it's something I can overcome and I will overcome. There's I know I'm going a little overtime. I hope you'll forgive me. It's there's a sikha from the Rebbe on the Haggadah. After all the years being here, I don't remember. I said it once. I didn't say it once. It says in the Haggadah, "Vayered Yaakov Mitzrayma Anus al pi hadibur." Now the derech of the Baal Haggadah is that every statement he says, he brings a pasuk supporting it. Vayereya Sanu Shenemar. This Vanitzak Shenemar. But here, just the Baal Haggadah makes a statement. That when Yaakov, the pasuk says Vayered Yaakov Mitzrayma, and the Baal Haggadah adds in Anus al pi hadibur, that he was forced to by Hashem. Enochanami, there's the Medrash that says that Roy Yaakov later b'shal shaloi shal barzal Yaakov should have gone down. He could have gone down even in chains. He was forced by Hashem. But where does the Baal Haggadah get this from? Why doesn't he bring a source? So the Rebbe says there's no source necessary for this. Yaakov being in Mitzrayim, the only way that Yaakov could be in Mitzrayim is if Hashem forces him to be in Mitzrayim. Because for a Yid, Yaakov, a Yid, to be in Mitzrayim means constraints, Mitzarim, and in Galus, and in limitations, that doesn't make any sense, because Yid has a neshama. A neshama is a chelak alakami mal. A neshama is bligvul. How do you fit bligvul into gvul? How do you fit bligvul into Mitzrayim? There's no logical way for that to happen. How is a Yid? How is Yaakov in Mitzrayim? And how is a Yid in Galus? How are we in Galus? Anus al pi hadibur. The only way is that the Eibishter was a kol yachol. He's able to make that a Yid should be in Galus. And this is true nationally of Klal Yisrael. And the same thing is every single Yid. The Galus that we find ourselves in Avedas Hashem. How is it possible that I can be in Galus, you can be in Galus, that we did in Avera? It makes no sense. It's honest al pi hadibur. The Eibishter set up a system where this becomes possible, although it is really impossible. And what do we take from that? Says the Rebbe, that people look and say, we say Mashiach's coming. How can Mashiach come? The world is we're so far away from that. So the Rebbe says, the question isn't how Mashiach can come. The question is how we're in Galus. The moment that the Anas al pi hadibur stops, then Galus stops. Galus is not rational. Galus is not logical. The natural state of a Yid is Geula's connection to Hashem. And the same thing is also on every single one of us. We ask ourselves, how can I start serving the Eibishter? That's not the question. The question is, how is it possible for you to do an Avera, considering who you are, a Ben Avram Yitzchak Yaakov, that you're that you're a ba'amich kum tzadikim. It's a whole different way, a different paradigm of looking at things. So how's a taka shaykh to do an avera? So it's the ruach shtus, and ultimately it's only to empower us to do tshuva. The only reason why Hashem allows us that bechira, that choice, is so that through the avera we can reach even a higher level. Which is through tshuva. But this is based on the Tanya which we're learning today. The idea of knowing that as a Yid, when you're looking for Yiras Shamayim, you're not looking to create the Yiras Shamayim. You're looking to access the Yiras Shamayim. The same thing when it comes Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and we're doing tshuva, we're not looking to change, we're looking to reconnect who we are. To put it in different words, we're not even so much trying to clean ourselves as much as we're trying to shed. We're trying to rise above. We're trying to get in touch with that part of ourselves where all Averis automatically fall off because we have no shaykhis to Averis on that level of connection to Hashem. We should all be zeicha to have tshuva, the highest level of tshuva, and we should all have gemar simateva, and the Eibishter should bench us all, that good gebenched year, and all the brachas. So everyone these are for shalem, everyone these shidduchim and parnasa, and all the brachas Hashem should give for us and for all of Klal Yisrael, and a year of Geula and Yeshua.
Amen.